Hey everybody, welcome back to our Cybersecurity Awareness Month video series with the Halloween twist. I'm Dawn Church, I'm WorkSmart's Events Manager, and we have the fabulous Marissa Wayman, our Marketing Manager Extraordinaire. I feel like a flight attendant today.
Yeah.
Yeah. This way. Okay, so this way to the technology. So let's continue our conversation from yesterday about beefing up security for accessing technology in the cloud. In our last episode, we gave you some tips about strengthening security measures at login and implementing some things kind of as like barriers to protect against the virtual vampires from getting into your system. So things like that were passwords that are hard to guess but easy to remember, multi-factor authentication, and giving the right access to the right people. But it's not just the barriers to keep the virtual vampires out that we need to do in order to beef up this security. We also need a simple way to manage our zombies' access to our technology that exists in the clouds, and that way needs to be efficient and secure. Why? Well, Marissa's gonna tell you.
I mean, I'm just so excited to tell you. As a security measure, everyone on your team has let's call it an identity or an account with a username and password. The easy example to think of is the way we've traditionally worked for small businesses when we've accessed all of our data and our applications from a server in the office. As an organization, we put up the barriers around the whole thing with just one username and password. And we were able to easily manage that, how our team logged in and what they were able to access all from one place. Fairly straightforward in order for us to keep the virtual vampires at bay. You know, call it a circle of salt or a bunch of garlic. But when we talk about the cloud, each service has its own set of accounts. When you start adding more cloud services, you increase the number of accounts needed, and those accounts exist all over the internet. So unlike when you were in the office, you're now left managing all these separate identities across different cloud services that you use, and you can't easily put up a circle of salt or a bunch of garlic around the entire internet like we might have done with the servers at home.
If only it was that simple, because that doesn't sound simple, and it's not. It can get messy, and as people come and go, you might lose track of what accounts they had access to and what accounts were created under their name. And as you can imagine, that leads to a lot of possible open doors for virtual vampires to kind of just like walk into. So as we grow with the cloud, we need to keep track of our zombies and their access and all of their accounts. And we can do that by using tools and technologies to centralize user account management, even if their accounts are distributed across all the different platforms all over the internet, which is why we're going to tell you all about Azure Active Directory, or Azure AD for short.
Yes, that's right. So Azure Active Directory is Microsoft's cloud-based identity and access management tool. It's a mouthful, I know, but it's really just a fancy way of saying it's Microsoft's approach to making it easy for the right people to access the right things no matter where they are. It helps you, in plain terms, it helps you manage users that securely sign in and access your data, whether it's stored in the cloud or on-premise. That's right, you heard me. It doesn't just work with Microsoft 365. It can actually sync with the server in your office and thousands of other cloud applications.
So when you connect all, 1,000 of those applications together with Azure AD, you have one place to manage all of your team members' accounts on all the different platforms that they have. So from that one portal, you can easily also create the right accounts when a new person joins your team, and you can close out the right accounts when somebody leaves. And it's really time-saving because Well, lots of different reasons, but it also helps you reduce your risk by creating a standardized process for things like that. So you don't have so many open doors. Because of that central management, you can also enable this thing called single sign-on, which allows you to connect a bunch of different applications together with one set of credentials. And this helps you and your team avoid ending up with a different username and password for everything that they do, which is a lot to keep track of. So while limiting the number of accounts to manage reduces your risk because it's less to kind of keep track of, a weak password will still leave you vulnerable to a virtual vampire attack. So Azure Active Directory also can help you strengthen the security of your passwords and your team's passwords by blocking the use of known weak passwords or known really common passwords and all of their variations. So, like the top 20 most common passwords being like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and password and QWERTY, you know, we talked about that last time, but those aren't really the only ones that you as a unique organization needs to be wary of. You probably also want to create a custom list of things that are specific to you, like your brand name. So for us, that would be, we don't want people using WorkSmart 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we want to create a custom list of banned words. And you can do that with Azure AD, which is really cool. But there's more. There's another thing. There's a bit of a catch in there, right? And if you were paying attention, you might have already guessed it already, especially if you've been watching all of these episodes this whole month long. So if a wicked witch of the web lures you into a phishing scam that reveals your password, well, they have your password. It doesn't matter how strong it is because they have your password. So, Marissa, what do we do?
Well, if your password is compromised, you don't really have any control over an attacker logging into your system. So what counter spell is going to protect you? Multi-factor authentication. And according to Microsoft, you are more than 99.9% less likely to be compromised if you use multi-factor authentication. So this is a big deal. Multi-factor authentication is enabled within Azure Active Directory. And it's used to prevent this unauthorized access. It asks users to choose an additional form of ID during sign-in, such as a code that goes to their mobile device or something like a biometric scanner, like your fingerprint. Azure AD also gives you the ability to control access based on something like a location or the time of day or a device status. This is called conditional access. And it makes it no longer just about who you are when you're logging in, but now it becomes about a question of, are you using the right device? Is it the right time of day? Are you logging in from the right place? If we know you're in North Carolina, probably your zombies aren't logging in from Zimbabwe. But passwords overall are becoming the focus, or just not even becoming, they're continuing to be the focus of cyber attacks. And so Azure AD beefs up the security and simplifies that second form of ID by using something called passwordless authentication. As it sounds creatively, there's no need to create a password and even remember that secure password. It's no longer required, and it's replaced by something you have, like your computer and your mobile device, plus something you are, like we talked about, the biometrics, like a fingerprint scan, and then something you know, which comes from a security key, if you've heard of like a YubiKey. But there's also a bonus treat, little trick or treat. Here's your treat. You can even include people you commonly work with that are outside of your organization through Azure Active Directory BDB. It makes it easy to collaborate with that same level of security by inviting them to work within your Microsoft 365 tenant or your organization's Microsoft 365 account with their own set of credentials that follow all of the security practices that we've talked about here.
Right. Okay, so yesterday we talked about all the different barriers to keep out the virtual vampires, and today we talked a lot about how to manage your zombies' access to all the things in the cloud. And that's all that we have for today. So we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.